That Don't Sound Right is a podcast about talking the way we did before the internet.
When you could not prove anyone right or wrong, all the expertise was contained in the people involved in the conversation.
We hope you enjoy our conversations. And as you listen, if you find yourself silently saying, that don't sound right, send us a comment. You're one of us.
Then we'll
cut you out.
We'll give you some time to think about it. We're not lying. That's the beauty of the podcast. That's the beauty of the podcast. Welcome back to another episode of That Don't Sound Right, a podcast about talking. We're your co-host. I'm Peter Billman.
I'm Cecil Davis.
And we're just trying to have a conversation like we did before the internet. No Googling, no fact-checking on our phone, just talking about what's in our brain.
And this week, my cousin, right after our episode, or on the secret text line, sent me a follow-up to our AI episode, which is what we're going to do tonight. We're going to talk a little more about AI. So if you were tired of it last week, you'll get even more tired of it this week.
And I've had some conversations also with some friends about AI, about listening to other speakers and what some of the experts have been saying.
And I've also had some stuff. So this was a big week for both of us for AI.
I just got a text on the super secret hotline about something that Google has that could potentially replace you and me as live persons. In fact, we had episode 145, If I Could. That's where we talked about the ability for AI to actually replicate our likeness, our personality.
Yeah.
And so in the future, when we're long gone, our family members, our descendants could talk to us.
They could have like an Alexa version of you.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And it would sound like me. It would stutter like me. It would know what I knew, and it would not know what I didn't know, which means it would be a short conversation with my descendants. But that's still, isn't that amazing? But anyway, yeah, so a lot of AI in the That Don't Sound Right community.
Well, the first thing that came through on the line was that Lisa up in the mountains liked our traveling tumbleweeds episode, especially us talking about car talk, because her and her husband are big fans of car talk.
Yeah.
And it turns out they were musicians. I sent you a video of that. Tom and Ray were both musicians, and Martin Guitars made a special edition car talk.
Did they really?
Martin guitar. They sold like 49 of them. They had certain inlays on the fretboard. They were all automotive related.
No way.
And
probably like nuts and bolts and.
It was like a bumper, an exhaust.
No kidding. Really?
Yeah. And they sold.
That is so.
Yeah, it was a great video.
Have you seen one of? Have you seen one?
I've seen one. No,
have you seen one for sale?
I haven't seen one for sale, but I saw one just on the video. So
I bet you they want just as much as you want your mantle.
Probably so. The first thing that came through on the hotline was my brother ran up against AI as he was listening to the episode, perhaps. He stopped at a Bojangles, and an AI voice took his order.
So how did he know it was AI?
It was not quite enough to know that. I mean, I guess there's something about it. He knew it was not a human voice.
Okay.
And he was able to ask it questions and it would respond.
Yeah.
Because he asked if they had pimento cheese and it said no. So this was not a human voice, but it was an AI interaction taking his order. It was very clear. It got the order perfect and answered his questions, drove around to the window to pick it up, and the human that filled the order got the order wrong.
Nice. I wonder if I would be less intimidated or more intimidated by an AI order taker at the drive-thru. I think I'm still driving forward and opening the back window for someone to...
I think you'd be less intimidated because now you can ask it questions and you're not dealing with a human. You're just dealing with a...
That's true, because part of the intimidation factor is some of these people that take your order don't feel like... I don't feel like they really want to be taking my order.
Right.
I feel like I'm imposing on them.
But that's a pretty entry-level position. And now if that's being replaced by AI, that's rough. That's terrible.
I mean, that guy or gal who couldn't fill the order, they're just one 3D printer away from losing a job.
Exactly. I went to a gas station, same trip, and ordered a candy bar and a coffee Or a guy that can't even order
Wait
coffee.
a minute. This is slightly off your normal lunch menu at the gas
Yeah,
station.
yeah. This was breakfast menu.
If I bring back episodes 87 and 89, I think we're talking a little more about Vienna sausages, sardines, some hot sauce. Yeah. What's this about? Snickers?
This is the breakfast menu.
I feel like I would have been mocked mercilessly had I brought up Snickers as something to get at a gas station.
No, this was I needed. I mean,
Snickers is like beef jerky level.
So I got a coffee, the Snickers bar. Went up to check out. There was a woman standing out there. She was standing behind maybe 2 or 3 machines that looked like 3D printers. They were brightly lit. They had 3 sides to them, an open, and she motioned for me. She said, just put it in the box, this brightly lit box.
It's kind of like is it basically like a microwave?
It's like a microwave, but bigger. It was a little taller. But yeah, like a microwave.
No door.
Without a door and without one side.
Without one of the sides, okay.
And it had a kind of a pattern on the floor of the box. And you put your purchases into the box and it rang it up and you just scanned and left.
Wow.
So you just placed it in there.
Yeah, I wonder what the advantage of that is.
Well, I think eventually you just go in and, she could check out multiple people at one time.
Right. But I mean, I wonder what the advantages of that is over me just having a scanner. Because for me to pick up a scanner and zap my thing is pretty.
That's pretty fast. But you didn't have to find the barcode. I just set it down.
True. You don't have to find the barcode.
And it set it down. It told me how much it was, and then I left.
What if the barcode was face down?
I don't know.
Would it pick it up?
I don't know. It was pretty amazing.
I feel like I could break it.
You could break it. It was better than the self-checkouts.
At like the grocery store?
Yes. It seemed to be very efficient. I don't think it just worked off of barcodes. I think there had to be some type of optical identifiers in it.
Oh, that would actually look at the shape of things. Yeah. Well, interesting, looking at the shape of things, there's been a big debate at the household, my household, about some china, some flatware, plates, bowls, and stuff. Evidently, my grandmother had 2 different sets, the everyday set and the fine china set. And we were under the impression we had the fine china set, but we didn't. We had the Corelle, which is not fine china.
Yeah.
But I thought it was plastic, but Corelle is actually glass. It's a glass. But we were wondering what it was. So I picked it up, I put it on the table, I used Google Lens. Have you ever used Google Lens? So you use your Google app and you click on the little camera icon.
Oh, yeah.
And it brings it up and you snap a picture of it and it searches it and matches the image in an instant. Yeah. It told me that this was Corelle, what the pattern was, and if it was made before 2005, don't use it because there's probably lead in the coloring.
Did it tell you that?
It told me all of that.
Was it before 2005?
This stuff was before 2005.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow.
We washed our hands.
Do you want to introduce the voice that's occurring off?
Yes, we do not have another AI voice. I want to welcome Cecil's wife, Christy, to the show. Hey, Christy, welcome to the show.
Well, thanks, Peter.
Yeah.
Thanks, Peter. It's been a while.
It has been a while.
So you also ran across AI this week, too, in the secret text line.
On the secret text line, a good friend from school, out of the blue, he asked if we've ever used Notebook LM from Google. So this is what he did, or this is what you do. You take documents and you load them into the notebook. So you just load them into the software. And then you ask it to do something with it. You ask it to analyze it, or you can ask it to teach you what it says. So what he did is he took 2 licensing agreements. You know what a licensing agreement is?
Yeah.
It's about a 50-page document of fine print that you always say, I agree to whenever you load a new piece of software. Right. Like when you get your new Apple iPhone, you agree to it.
Have you ever read one?
I've never read one.
I saw this week.
Maybe the first couple paragraphs and the last couple paragraphs.
I saw a woman this week that read one, and like way down in it, it said, if you read this and email it, or the first to email us, we'll give you $10,000.
No.
She got $10,000.
I don't believe that.
That sounds like an urban legend.
That does sound.
I saw it. It was on the internet. So
that don't sound. But anyway, so what he did is he took an agreement, a licensing agreement from Microsoft and Oracle, and put them in the test notebook. Then he asked it to do a audio overview. It created a 22-minute podcast that was interesting and entertaining because there were two AI hosts on the podcast. They were talking back and forth about boring licensing agreements. They added personal comments. They even had jokes, laughter, and even had mannerisms that he was able to learn about these licensing agreements and be entertained at the same time.
So the reason Christy's on here is she asked before we went on there tonight, could this Google what'd you say, LM?
Notebook LM.
Could Notebook LM replace us?
I think it's very possible. And my next question is, could it learn our voices and literally do the podcast for us? But I think I don't know. I'm going to have to go play with it. I think I'd like to play with it because I think you have to load information into it for it to learn and then to do something. Now, I don't know if I could say, do an episode on stealing a train. Give me a 22 episode about stealing a train and your experiences of stealing a train. I'm very curious, but I don't know if I could do it.
Right.
Maybe I have to load in a bunch of articles about stealing a train, maybe the manual on how to run a train, and then it would do it. I don't know. We're going to give it a shot.
Would you listen to us if we were?
Well, I think it would be interesting to hear because just the nuances and your mannerisms and the inside jokes, like how would there's just no way you would replicate that, right?
Unless we told it to go listen to all of our 190 podcast episodes, I'm almost positive it could learn it. And if it can't do it now, it'll be able to do it next year.
Right. That's disturbing.
Yeah.
That would be interesting to dump all the episodes in there and see what it would do with them.
And then think about the amount of data it generates from learning our stuff. Because it's got to generate data. Here's a fun fact. We were talking about earlier, talking with some Charlotte's friends' parents. We were at a graduation dinner, and they had listened to about a speaker talk about AI. And a fact they pointed out was what percentage, or in the last, I'll ask it this way. What percentage of all the data created in the world, how much of it, if you take out a percentage of it, was created in the last 2 years?
How much?
90%.
What? Say that again.
If you take the entire body of data on the planet, stored everywhere, 90% of that has been generated in the last 2 years.
The stored version of that, or just knowledge in general?
Knowledge in general, but also the stored, mainly in the form of stored data.
Wow.
So you think about when you were going to school, you had all these research papers in binders that were in your library, and you would go up and you have to look at I forgot the reference, but how you look things up.
The Dewey Decimal System?
Well, the Dewey Decimal got you to a book, but then there's this other system that, like, if you wanted to look on a particular research paper that someone did on the effects of aspirin and whiskey in 50-year-old males, there's a research paper done. There's a way to look that up, right?
Right. Yeah.
So all these universities have all that information. More than likely, it's all been digitized.
Right.
But all that information is out there. That kind of information has been multiplied, and 90% of it has been generated in the last 2 years.
That's incredible.
Isn't that incredible?
Is AI generating that?
No, it's not necessarily.
Right.
Not necessarily. But what AI is doing, it's creating this data, these databases to learn and to remember. And that's the scary part. It'll remember. That
is really interesting because I had forgotten all about trying to find papers. So in the early days of trying to find any medical journal stuff, we had these microfiche.
I was just getting ready to say
the microfiche.
Yeah, we would pull the microfiche, and then you'd find the journal, and then you had to go find the actual journal, the physical journal.
Right.
You had to find the library that had
the microfiche just had the
index.
The index.
Yeah, so you had to go find the actual journal.
Yeah.
Pull that journal off the shelf.
And hope it was there.
Hope it was there. Hope it was in the right spot, and then hope nobody had messed with it.
Yeah.
And then you physically read the article in the journal.
Right. These days, theoretically, all that information has been... I'd be curious to know how much of that information has been digitized and now it's available.
Yeah.
Because a lot of that information, I think, is still relevant.
It would be.
I think that information is still relevant.
Yeah. I've been interested, like they've digitized a lot of the old pharmacy records. And they've gone further and further back. So I can look up stuff in the the board of pharmacy newsletters. I can go back pretty far now with those.
Yeah.
And see those. They digitized the death certificates and all that kind of stuff for genealogy research.
Oh,
too. Like,
yeah,
we
that's
got
right.
big databases for that now. That's very interesting.
Imagine AI. I would think Ancestry.com is working on their AI right now. They've hired an AI company to come in there. And so all now you have to do is, okay, AI, tell me my family tree.
Right.
And it goes and does it for you. You don't have to do all this research.
No.
All right. So your thing was Google. And is that free, the Google Notebook? Do you know if it's free?
Both LM.
I don't know if it's free, but you know what? I'm just going to click on the link that my friend sent me.
I bet it's free. I bet the first few times are free. Okay. So that's very interesting that it will teach you that.
Yes.
And people are using like ChatGPT for that too, to break down complicated subjects.
Right.
Because I think I saw on like the Today Show where a dad used ChatGPT to explain his son's very complicated illness and actually was able to like help develop a cure for it.
Really?
Yeah. Which I think that's pretty interesting. That's giving people the tools to do interesting things. But here's the thing I saw today that takes all this a bit further. And I've almost done this. People are using AI like ChatGPT to ask life questions of it. So they're using ChatGPT as to be a life coach.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So what should I do with this? What should I do with that?
Yeah.
Should I buy a house? Should I get married? Should I do this? That's very interesting that somebody like potentially doesn't believe in a religion, let's say, have faith, but they will trust a computer to teach them about their life.
And the thing is, what I'm not sure of is how can we know what we're reading is true? For instance, you'd say, okay, what are the effects of mixing aspirin and bourbon in a 50-year-old man if he drinks three of these at 11 p.m.? How do you know how do we know what they say, what it's saying is true? Now, I think a lot of these searches, when you do like a Gemini search, it gives you links that you can click on to see that source, hopefully see that source. But ChatGPT, you can ask ChatGPT to say, give me your sources. Right. Tell me what you read.
Yeah, I mean, because if you think about it, this stuff can be very easily swayed or hacked.
That's the thing.
To give bad answers.
Right, because, I mean, how much bad data is out there?
Yeah.
In fact, you can probably have your own AI bot to purposely generate bad data and get it out there so other reputable bots can see it and then make some bad claims.
Yeah.
Well, I was telling you, my daughter's, I think his English teacher uses an AI to read his students' papers to try to determine if the student used AI
that's smart.
to write the paper. Now, it flagged Charlotte as using AI, and she said, "I didn't do it, and I'm happy to come into your office and write a paper on another topic you give me in front of you to prove to you." And this group of parents who I was talking to, when they were at the bookstore at Carolina, do you remember the blue books?
Yeah.
They said they'd never seen so many blue books at the bookstore before. And my guess is blue books are going to come back. Because the only way now you can prove that someone didn't use AI is to have them write it in front of you.
Right.
I hadn't thought about that.
Right.
I'd forgotten about blue books too.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
You gotta, if I want to know that it's from you.
All right, one of y'all tell us what a blue book is for everybody that's listening that doesn't know, because we have such a young generation.
Well, maybe.
Yeah, it's just like a paper. It wasn't even card. I mean, it's like a paper folded over paper with lined, like an unfancy notebook that you would take to your tests and answer.
The paper was like a light blue.
Well, I don't think the paper was light blue. I think the cover was light blue. I feel like I remember it just being lined paper inside of it.
Yeah, it's just a place
just
to
like
write.
Notebook paper, but it was small. Like it was like a not 8.5 by 11. It was more like, and not even 5 by 7. What would you say it was? Don't you think they were like this big?
Yeah, that's about
They
the size of
weren't very
her. She's
big.
holding her hands up about the
Sorry.
size of a.
Like, I'm guessing, I don't know. I think
That's
it was
like-
8
that's
by
like a-
11.
That's like a 10 by 5 is what you're looking at.
Maybe.
Did you bring your own blue books? Did you have to bring your
Bought
own
them
blue
at the
book?
bookstore. You bought them at the bookstore.
What kept us from like putting the answers in before we walked into class? Did somebody look at your blue book when you walked in?
I don't remember anyone looking at my stuff.
Don't you feel like you had to bring your own? That's my memory. Bring your own.
Maybe people weren't cheating back then.
Well, there's an honor code.
At Campbell University, nobody was cheating.
Nobody was cheating. But I do find it's interesting that people are using it for life coaching now.
Yeah. We were talking about that, and that's where I got off on the tangent. How can you trust what it's saying?
Yeah.
And how would an AI bot know? I mean, it's only as good as the information you give it, right? You got to tell it a lot so it can make some relatively good guesses on
But
it.
if people are trusting the internet on all kinds of stuff already, it's not that big of a leap. They're going to start to trust AI to make
Right.
decisions for them.
In fact, they probably would trust AI more than a person,
Oh, 100%.
right?
I could see that happening.
Mm-hmm.
100%. That's going back to episode 190, 3 times better.
That's right.
How many
100%.
references has Peter made?
Well, we try to reference our old stuff so people
That's
listen
a
to it.
lot of references.
Well, I tell you what, AI would be able to do it just like that. I'm here scrolling through our list
Right.
of podcasts.
Well, if we were AI hosts, they wouldn't have to scroll and look up our old stuff. They would just know it.
They would exactly. They
It'd be in their
would
head.
have it memorized.
They would have it
I don't
in
have
In its
100.
head, in AI's head.
In
Do they all
AI's,
have a
in
head?
the AI brain,
It would just snap to it.
yeah, they know it. Man, I look forward to seeing that podcast now.
Well, I'm gonna work on an episode.
You need to feed one of our episodes into it and just say, make it better.
That would be interesting.
Yeah.
That would be
Mhm.
really, because what we could do is we could create the transcript. I'll create a transcript and give it to the Notebook LM and say, make it better,
Mm.
re-record it for me using our voices.
Woo.
In fact, we could do
And then
that.
let people vote. Which one do you prefer?
Yeah, which one do you like better?
That's scary.
That's getting scary. All right. And my cousin was also very quick to point out that the band Gorillaz from the 1990s existed only in the ether. It was a band that existed as animation only.
But there were human voices.
It was human voices. It was
Great.
real voices. Real, as far as I remember, it was a real band.
I don't remember.
band
I don't
behind
remember the Gorillas. I don't.
it. But
Do
they,
you remember the Gorillas?
No.
yeah, but they existed as animation.
I don't know what that means. What do you mean? Like,
Well, the band was.
If you wanted to watch the band, it was on TV as
it
a
was
cartoon.
it was a video, like an animated video. You
Like-
never saw real people.
And
like the cartoon G-Force? Did you ever watch G-Force?
I did not watch this
I
one.
did not watch G-Force.
Is that
So
kind
this would be,
animated?
Or is it like Bugs Bunny
yeah. It was an animated
and the
band.
Barber of Seville?
Yes, it was an animated band, and they would have songs, but you never saw the live band. They were all
Right.
But there was a band.
There was a band.
Did
That-
the live band ever tour? We are the
that's the thing I don't remember if the live band ever went on tour because they had these representations of themselves in.
Did anyone ever cover a gorilla song?
That would be hilarious, wouldn't it? A Gorillaz cover
Yeah.
band.
A Gorillaz cover band.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Whoa.
All right, so I guess this is going to be our second episode in our AI series. Actually, it's our third
It's
or
our third
fourth.
episode,
Yeah, yeah, on our AI series. Yeah, it's impacted my life this week.
Well, it's definitely piqued my curiosity. I mean,
Yeah.
I've played around with ChatGPT doing things, having it look at some like presentations of mine saying, hey, tell me how I can sharpen this up a little or
Yeah.
but I haven't really gotten in, but it's failed me.
Mm.
So one of the things I wanted to do is I gave it our website. I said, okay,
Mm.
look at our website
Mm.
and give me an Excel spreadsheet, all the episodes,
Mm.
keywords for each episode, the title,
Mm.
and when we made it.
Hmm.
And I mean, I have the free version, but it kind of conked out.
Really?
It couldn't do it.
Hmm.
And then it finally said, hey, you've used all your computing power. Come back tomorrow at 2 p.m.
The thing you need to have to try to do is get it to write code.
Yeah. Oh, I did get it to write a macro for me. I got it to write a macro to clean up our transcript.
Oh.
Because the transcript that Podbean pours out is kind of cluttered.
Yeah.
And so I loaded it into ChatGPT. I said, clean this up, I tried to have it clean it up. It couldn't do it. And so I said, okay, I put it in a Word document and I said, okay, write a macro that does this, this, and this. Because I knew what I needed to do.
Right.
I needed a macro to do this, but I didn't know quite how to get a macro to do it. So it wrote me the macro. Yeah. And the macro worked. Now that was helpful.
Yeah. That's impressive.
That was very impressive.
All right. Chris, you have any final comments for us tonight? Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, that's very interesting.
Like, after our conversation, what one thing would you go experiment with AI, with ChatGPT? What would you go try? What would you have it do?
Should have it create my voice that listens better and
why are you talking?
It's more agreeable.
I would have to really think about that. My things that I want it to do are I need a physical. I don't need AI. I need, what do you call it when it's like
you need something to
I need a
plan
gardener. I want a gardener. I want somebody to work in my yard. Like I need an AI that's going to work in my yard and pull up all the weeds in the side yard.
So
that's what I need.
What's fun about that is that
I'd love to know what's fun about that.
I've seen it's a robot. And it's right now they're designed for rows of fields, but it can go over the row of the small plant, and it can distinguish between a weed and the plant, and it puts down a little spinner, and it destroys the weed. It's like a little weed eater. It is literally a micro weed eater.
Wow.
It addresses the weeds before they start, and it goes up and down the rows, zapping the weeds. It's solar powered.
Wow!
And it just goes. That's all it does all day. It just goes up and down, just zapping the weeds. I would love for it to come in my yard and figure out what is a piece of grass.
We would have nothing.
What is a African violet?
Yeah,
I know you do that manually.
Yeah, it would.
You can come to my house and do that.
Our yard would kill it.
Well, we didn't rent the aerator this year with you.
Yeah, you did.
We did not rent the aerator and seed this fall, and it's sadly...
You could tell.
Christy wants a Roomba for the yard.
Oh, yeah. They make those, right?
A Roomba for the yard?
Yeah.
Really?
That mows it?
Well, not just mows it, that kills all the weeds.
Oh, you literally want something. Because they make Roombas that mow the lawn.
Well, I've seen those robotic mowers, and I don't trust that at all. That is a technology that's going to just... get it away.
You think we're over automated our lawn care system?
No, I'm just saying I can't imagine having a robotic spinning metal blade. Maybe they use like a weed eater blade.
Oh, they use I think they use a weed eater blade. But let's say it is a spinning metal blade. What's your deal?
Because it could run over something that's a living. And
those things have all kinds of safeties.
Right.
If they don't know what it's coming up against, it just shuts down.
Kind of like the little robots at UNC Charlotte that deliver the food. If you stand in front of it, it stops, and then it kind of reroutes and goes around you. Yeah.
I forgot I think we were in Vienna, Austria, at one of the palaces, and they had those robotic mowers going while people were around.
Oh, man. Yeah. No, I don't trust that.
Wow. That don't sound right.
All right. It doesn't sound right, but I think you've come to the end of this episode of That Don't Sound Right.
Well, we want to thank everyone for listening. If this is your first time and enjoyed the conversation, would you consider hitting the subscribe button on the platform you listen with? Also, if you're a longtime listener, please give us a rating, leave us a review so others can easily find us and join the conversation.
All right, That Don't Sound Right is a production of TDSR Podcast in conjunction with Camel City Studios. I'm your co-host and sound engineer, Cecil. Peter is your other host and web designer. Christy sat in tonight as a guest host. Camille is our barista. Emily does our graphic design. Ella does our Instagram. Giorgio tests our merchandise. Brent is our international brand ambassador. And as always, listener number one is Scott. So until next week, keep talking.
And stay curious.